Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Today I have another collection update. Today I'm going to be updating you guys on recent pickups from my vintage collection. Yay, vintage. I've talked about it, getting back into my vintage collecting days. And I have some pretty cool vintage cards here. I also have some massive, in my opinion, massive. Maybe for others, not so massive, but for me, updates to some of my core, I'm calling it now, collecting categories like player collections, set collections. So without further ado, here we go. We're going to start here. These are going to be sort of random. I have my big one at the end. So there's a big collection update card here. The first one here is, and I'll take it out of the sleeve because I always replace the sleeves. A lot of people don't use those perfect sleeves like I like, because I like to have the perfect sleeve fits the holder for PSA. First up here is an O-Pee-Chee, and it's a 65 O-Pee-Chee Mazeroski. So let's talk about this card for just a second. One is, I bought this card, just browsing Maz cards that were on buy nows and auctions, and I just saw it. It looked pretty nice. It's a little off center, but a lot of O-Pee-Chees are. You see printed in Canada. That's how you know it's O-Pee-Chee. Also, the back's a little different color. And so I'm like, yeah, it's a cool card. I've got the Clemente in a 7, and I'm like, hey, let's pick up this Maz. It's a 6, but hey, I don't care so much about grades as I used to anymore. So I bought it, and when I was, looking around at cards of the day, I found out that I actually already owned this card in an 8. So now I own 2 cards. I own 2 65 O-Pee-Chee Mazes, one in a 6 and one in an 8. So if someone needs a 65 O-Pee-Chee Maz, let me know, because I have 2 now. Not that I don't want 2 of them, because that's still cool, but I would have probably not bought it if I remembered that I owned this card. And that's one of the things that sucks about when you're on an app or something and you just don't have time to look up your entire collection and not have it on a database. Like, I try to do that multiple times. I just never been able to get my whole collection uploaded. And I just didn't remember it. And yeah, so now I have 2. But at least it's a cool card. Next up is another really cool card. I got these in really weird order here. This is probably a card that it just kind of showed up one day, and it showed up completely because I was looking for a Clemente card. And I saw this card. I'm thinking, like, this card is cool too. And I ended up just buying it, because I thought it came at a good price. But it's a 71 Bazooka Hank Aaron. And so I was looking at a Clemente the guy had, and he had this Hank Aaron. I'm like, awesome. It's a 6. And it's a bazooka, my first bazooka really I've ever really owned, and so kind of cool. These are obviously cut off a bazooka box, so they're going to be a blank back. But I thought a 6th grade was a very nice grade, and you don't see this card that often. And all bazookas are pretty tough, but a 6 is a pretty good grade for a hand cut card like this. And so yeah, a really nice 2 non-tops cards to start the day, a bazooka and an O-Pee-Chee. Kind of fun. Next up is a card that I've never owned before. It's not a huge card, but it's just fun to pick up a card you've never owned before. And this is a 62 Frank Robinson All-Star. And I'm a big fan of 62s. To me, the 62 and 71 set are just great to pick up cards from because of just how hard they are to find in good shape. And there you go. Gives you some background on Mr. Robinson. But, there's so many cards in the set that's really short printed. One of them, in terms of just in good shape, I don't mean like, well, some are short prints, but a lot of them are just hard to get in good shape. His base card is insanely hard to find in PSA 7+. 7s you can find, but they're pricey. 8s are impossible, and 9s, I'm not even sure there is a 9 or a 10 in that card. Really rare. So here's the All-Star card. So kind of like, if you want a 62 Frank Robinson, but you don't want to pay the enormous prices to get a nice copy that a 7 or 8 base card would bring you, try his All-Star. It's still a cool card, and will not break the bank for sure, comparatively. Next up is another card from a set I just mentioned, the 71 set. It's a 71 Lou Brock. And I don't actually own a 71 Lou Brock in my 71 Hall of Famers. So I have some videos. They're older now. You can go back and look at them. But I did some videos on my 50s, 60s, and 70s collection. And I showed you kind of like my strategy was to, and still is, I mean, that's why I own this card, is to get every Hall of Famer from the set. So my goal, like for every year, is to get all the Hall of Famers for 1 year. And that stemmed again from the idea that, well, if I ever want to do the full set, I could just buy all the commons, and then I already own all the stars graded. I don't have to worry about the stars. It's something I do when I get, if I see a card I need. But I've got quite a few 71 All-Star or 71, Hall of Famers. But not a Brock. So here you go. I have it now in a 7. It's fine. It's a 7. It's not perfectly centered, but it doesn't have a lot of wear. It's just a nice 7. So it's like, I think it's appropriately graded, and it looks good. And again, I don't need 8s and everything now, like I used to. But so that's fun to pick off Lou Brock from 71. Next up is a card I've actually never owned either. This is a cool card. And it's from the 72 set. I never owned this. The 72 Johnny Bench in action. And I mentioned in an earlier video on my channel, my last Clemente video, how I didn't like the 72 in action Clemente. But I like the bench, because the bench he's doing something that he's known for, which is catching, as opposed to Clemente, which the video shows him like overreacting to a strike call, looks like, or arguing with the ump. So this is actually a card that shows him doing something positive, which is, looks like trying to catch a pop-up, which is kind of cool. But I've never owned this card. And to be honest, when I did 72 top sets, or when I, buy cards in the 72 top set, I do not typically get both the in action and the regular card. So I have the 72 bench, just never have the in action, just like I have the 72 Pete Rose, but not his in action. So it's just, that was just, I was like, oh, I'll get just the base card, not both. But if, if the in action card looks cool and I just, want to grab it, I will. So, and I'm a huge bench fan. I love all of his cards. In fact, his 76 is one of my favorite cards of all time. So there you go, the in action. And I just thought it was such a cool looking card. I've never owned it before. Then I went ahead and grabbed it. So yeah, pretty cool card I never owned. And another card I've never owned, and this is a little more esoteric, or definitely a lot harder to get. And again, they're going to get even more kind of esoteric as we go, a little bit more rare, I guess, as we go. This next one is a 70 O-Pee-Chee Reggie Jackson. So this is cool, man. This is second year Reggie. And the O-Pee-Chee is a 7. It's a little off center, okay, but it's got that really cool O-Pee-Chee odd back. It's off center. I will agree. But it has a lot of other good things going for it. And it's just fun picking up these 70s and 60 O-Pee-Chee cards. And I've never had the 70 O-Pee-Chee Reggie. Just like I've never had a 71 O-Pee-Chee Reggie. So that's, those cards are just really hard to find. So second year Reggie and O-Pee-Chee is a 7. I think that's awesome. Just fun to pick up these cards. I love O-Pee-Chees when I can find them. And they are gaining steam. I will say that there are more collectors out there today trying to find O-Pee-Chees than there ever has been in my lifetime of collecting cards. It feels like the O-Pee-Chees are really getting some respect now for their rarity and just the lower print runs. And I did a video on what I think the estimated print run difference between Topps and O-Pee-Chee by looking at the pop reports, and go to that video if you want to see what I came up with. But there's some mathematical equations in there, so you can kind of get an idea of what I think the delta is between O-Pee-Chee and Topps print runs. All right, next up is another set I've never owned. I've never owned a card from this set. It's a really cool set. It has one of the coolest manels ever printed. And it is the 54 Dandy Potato Chips. I have the red Shingeist. It's a 3.5. Okay, but it looks great. It looks great look at that thing. Yeah, it looks really nice for a 3.5. I love the eye appeal. Here's the back. There we go. Never owned one before. He's a Hall of Famer. He was a longtime manager for the Cardinals as well, but he was a pretty good player. This year he hit 303. 7 home runs, 67 RBIs, 188 hits, 91 runs. He wasn't a power guy, but he was a good player. Then he became the manager. The thing I always thought with Red Shingeist is that he looked like 50 years old for like half his life, as a player, as a manager, like he always looked old, and I think, this is a photo. Maybe he looks a little younger here, but just every time I see a photo of him even as a player, he looked like he was in his mid to late 50s. So it's a very interesting guy. But I love the design of the Dandy Potato Chips cards. The mantle is a massive card, but it's just fun to get a Hall of Famer from the set, and I just love the card. I really do. It's just so cool to have a card like that. So you go, 54 Dandy Potato Chips, Red Shingeist. Now, last but definitely not least, my biggest pickup, and by far, I think that, even though the rest of the cards I just picked up are cool, this is one as I love it. It's a Chief Bender, so I'll give that away. It's a Chief Bender, so it's part of my core collection. But I've never owned a card from the set, and I've kind of been eyeballing this card for a lot of time, and I just finally picked it up. It's the 1914 Coupon Cigarettes T213 Chief Bender. So there you go. The No Trees version. So it is a coupon cigarette. So I'll show you the back. Coupon cigarettes. And this is the type 2. So there's 3 types to this set. You can, I know this is a type 2, which is odd that they don't call it out here as a type 2. I think that would be cool for them to do that. But the backs are different. So, and the 3 different types. But this is definitely the type 2 back. So let's talk about the card for a second before I just, first I want to show off how cool and nice the card is. It is a beautiful 3. Great color. Presents very well. It's got a crease right there. You can see it right there. There's your crease. That's why it's 3. But otherwise, it's a beautiful card. I really enjoy the card. So a lot of people who might be looking at this card for the first time, might say, why isn't it just a T206? Because it's just a T206 with a different back, another coupon, another cigarette back. It was distributed, I think, differently. That's one of the things I think, when I read about it, why the coupon cigarettes were, considered different than the T206 set. It was, this is 1914. So, maybe it was a little bit later, as well, comparatively than the rest of the T sets. The borders are a little thinner. And the printing on it looks different, especially the back. So, it just looks a little different. Like, again, the borders are thinner. But, there's a big argument that can be made that it's the same photo, same image that's in the T206 set. So it's should have been classified as a T206. but it's never, it's never been that way. And I think it's still rare. And if you look at the pop reports, they're rare cards. So glad to pick up my first coupon cigarette, Chief Bender. Um, so I've now picked up my second Bender of the year. Um, I think it's cool that I'm kind of again growing that collection a little bit more. But it's just fun to pick up again T cards, or in this case a coupon cigarette, a D&D D&D potato chip card. Having a diverse collection, picking up O-Pee-Chees, and then picking up a bazooka, right? So you can see my collection is starting to get into, let's say, more, I won't say oddball, but just cards I don't own. I actually do own a lot of the Topps cards now. So, I'm branching out in different areas. But again, with Chief Bender, he has a ton of cards from sets that aren't, the T206 variety. So you're going to get a lot of oddball candy cards, those kind of cards, strip cards, just because it's pre-war. So, that's just what happens. That's how those cards, a lot of ton of those kind of cards. So, but, I think this is a great representation of like the direction my vintage collection is kind of taking now. Some core players like, Aaron and Bender, some, continuing to get O-Pee-Chees when I can, and getting sets that I've never collected before. It's a lot of fun. And, I think it's one of those things that makes collecting vintage very, very cool. That's why I did the video where I talked about how 90s and vintage are not that different because of the variety, the designs, and how all these cards are vintage, but they're very different. They look different, different eras, and just a lot of fun. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.